looks like we're recording. I'm doing this a little differently. I'm going to go to YouTube and then I'll link it out there. Good morning. Thursday morning, headed east on 80. Sun is, as you can tell, right there. So I've been thinking about a lot of things and seeing things last night. I'm going to be blunt with you. I don't see the Democrats run on anything except Orange Man bad. From Biden to Buttigieg to whoever, de Blasio, de blah blah Blasio, 75% of his constituents say he should not, capital N-O-T, should not run for president. You tell me what they're trying to say. So, the New York Post wrote a scathing report about the blah blah Blasio. So, by the way, every time he opens his mouth, that's all I hear. Blah blah blah. Now, like I said, not a single Democrat is running on anything. I'll take it back. They're running on policy. They're running on things, but realistic policy? No. So when I say they're not running on anything except Orange Man bad, they've got policy, but it's not realistic. None of it is realistic. You are not going to get single payer out of this American population. Okay? You're not going to get it. And I'm not going to talk about whataboutisms. There are whataboutisms, but what people are saying when they say, well, what about? What they're actually doing is they're pointing to somebody's hypocrisy. So we're going to examine hypocrisy just a little bit. And I'm going to start with Jerry Nadler. Go back and look, review the questioning between Trey Gowdy and Peter Strzok. Strzok refuses to answer the line of questioning based on ongoing investigation. Okay? That's information that legally cannot be relayed through a line of questioning by anybody except within the context of that investigation. In other words, court or grand jury, etc. Nobody in Congress, because Nadler points this out as a point of order. Listen to him. And I happen to agree with him that he was contesting the Goodlatte, the Judiciary Committee chairman, was insisting that Strzok answer the question. Okay? And based on the point of order that then ranking member Nadler brought up, I had to agree with him. I'm not a legal expert, but what I heard made sense. That he could not give information based because it was because there were references to ongoing investigations. Now, to Trey Gowdy's question, Trey Gowdy was asking how many interviews had been given within a specific window. To me, I think that Nadler saying, or that the objection to that information is pertinent to an ongoing investigation is wrong. So there's two issues. The first issue is I think he should have been able to say, I've given 12 interviews. picking a number. Okay? He's not telling you who. He's not telling you where. He's not telling you what the interviews were about, what the information was retrieved. I gave 12 interviews. Okay. No details are given that could possibly in any way change or alter the trajectory of any of those cases. But to the point that to the point of the reason for the objection, whether the reason is correct, but to the point of being able to give information pertinent to an investigation, ongoing investigation, Nadler's correct. Fast forward to Nadler now. I want the unredacted copy of Mueller's report. Can't, because it's illegal. No, I want the information redacted. Can't, because it's illegal. Rinse and repeat. Nadler, dumbhead, blockhead, and everybody that wants to agree with him. Blockheads, you are hypocrites. Go back to the contempt of Congress on Eric Holder. Fast and Furious. The gun running scam that got people killed. And you are upset with that contempt of Congress charge against Eric Holder. And now, because a sitting Attorney General is actually upholding the law, you think it's okay to charge him with contempt of Congress. All of the reasoning for that contempt of Congress is dumb. There is none. You put a point out there and it's like a fish hook with a little bait on it. Look, people, I'm doing something. I'm going to uncover something, or I'm going to get this guy to commit perjury. Okay, so Nadler's little stunt where he was going to have legal staffers ask questions? No. And A.G. Barr was smart not to fall into that trap, because he would have he could have easily fallen into perjury traps. Not because he would tell a lie. It's just the way people ask questions. You ask the same question a little differently 12 times, and he says, oh, look, he used this word here, but he didn't use it there. Or he used this word in a different context here than he did here. Something's fishy. No, you don't do that. You don't put yourself into that position. I wouldn't put myself in that position. Okay? That's why in a court of law, you have the people up there asking you questions who are trained and experienced and actually certified to ask you those questions. And if they miss something, oh well, they missed something. May or may not, make or break a case. The people that you elect to put up there in those chambers that conduct oversight in intelligence gathering and briefings and state of the union, trade, commerce, security, all that stuff. they're supposed to be, this is up to you, the electorate, they're supposed to be intelligent enough to be able to ask good questions and not be concerned over whether Guam is going to tip over if we put too many Marines on there. Ding, 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 hello. And that guy's still sitting up there. I can tell. I don't have to be watching C-SPAN. I can just listen and know when he's talking because, that's him. And you guys, there's some people, some living, breathing human adults that actually put him in office. He is a reflection of you. Okay? If you think it's okay for him to be there after asking a question or thinking that Guam's going to tip over because too many U.S. Marines are there, he's a reflection of you. Think about that. Listen to these people. You may elect them because they sound good when they're up there on their stump and they give you some sales pitch about why they need to be in office, and you put them there and they start saying stupid stuff. You need to you can recall them, you can impeach them. You say, man, I'm not sure that you really just don't have it all there. Those are responsible electorates, and don't let news outlets tell you what to think. Okay? So Democrats really don't have anything to run on except Orange Man Bad, and Joe Biden is really one of the worst, to be honest. He will sit there and badmouth President Trump. The only policies he's really talked about are the tariffs, this trade war with China. It's easy to say, oh, the tariffs are the wrong thing to do. It's bad for the American workers. It's bad for the American economy. He's just going about this all wrong. He's not thinking about this. Okay. What would you do different? If you're just going to go back to status quo, what are you telling everyone else out there? Everyone else. Before you start saying, oh, you're just a Trump boy, Trump fanatic. No, I'm not. He's, in my mind, he's just a man. Okay? He's just a man. He's a man that stepped out of his $1 billion hotel, his $1 billion lifestyle, and did something that he felt needed to be done. He is a man. He is well-intentioned. In other words, he is not seeking to ruin this country. He is not seeking to destroy the lives of the men and women who are working and struggling to make ends meet for their families. He is not a role model. he is. And like I said already, he is well-intentioned. He is not a student of the political norms. And that is what has upset so many of the political elites. He is, and I was saying this after listening to the first couple of rounds of debates between Trump and the other then candidates. He is a bull in a china closet. The china closet are the frameworks of political norms that the elites tend to conform to, expect others to conform to. A hierarchy, a certain set of global standards, rules, expectations. Trump isn't those. He is. He's also actually got a pretty good sense of humor. I believe this, and if anybody's listened to me to this point, I believe this with all my heart. America, as any nation, is given a leader selected and raised up by God Himself. He controls the powers of the nations. He raises up whom He will, at the time He will, for the purpose that He wills. It's the who, what, when, where, and why of God's will. Those things are above our understanding. But what we need to understand, especially anyone who claims to be a Christian, understand that any leader of a nation is essentially God's appointed. Another way of saying that would be anointed. And let's go back to an Old Testament example. You'd have to go back and read it, but I'm going to give you the bird's eye view. Probably poorly paraphrased, but there is an example here. King Saul, Israel's first king, anointed by Samuel. Was it Samuel? I think it was Samuel. I think. It was either Samuel or the prophet before him. But anyway, Saul, first king, stood head and shoulders above everyone else. Actually, if I remember correctly, he even looked different than everyone else. He goes on to be the king that first builds up Israel and establishes Israel's dominance over the area. But then he after a series of missteps, he finds out that there is another anointed, not his son, not his lineage. There is another anointed, chosen by God to be raised up. In effect, this drives Saul mad. And he actually seeks out, and this one that I'm talking about is the second king of Israel, King David. David is established to be the next king. I know he's anointed, by Samuel. The interesting thing is when Jesse's boys were all brought before Samuel, except for one. He was out in the pasture tending the sheep. Samuel looked at him and said, "None of these. Where don't you have another one?" "Yeah." Jesse said, "Yeah, he's out in the field." Samuel said, "Go get him." And brought him up. He's the youngest, the smallest. How do you think that made his brothers feel? What? So anyway, Samuel anoints him. And interesting thing is that the interaction between David and Saul is really amazing. David goes out and slays Goliath, which the whole army of Israel won't even get out there and confront Goliath. But yet here comes the shepherd boy. I don't know how old he is. I could probably find out, but I would say he's in his mid-teens. But he's faced down bears and lions and other things with only a sling and a stone. So he knows that God's already delivered Israel from this. He knows this, and that's the way he approaches this. And he brings Goliath down with one stone right in the head, and then chops off his head with his own sword, with Goliath's own sword. But anyway, so Saul actually ends up hunting David down, chasing him. He hears about David is over here, and he sends, the whole army. Go find him and bring him back. No, he's over there. Go find him and bring him back. And David is just running for his life. He knows he's going to be the next king. But he will not go remove Saul. Because Saul was God's anointed. And until Saul was removed by God, David would not touch him. He understood the concept of being anointed by God, being appointed by God, being raised up by God. He would not touch him to ascend to the point where he already knew God was going to raise him. He would not. A servant ends up bringing Saul's head to David. If I remember correctly. Like I said, I'm probably poorly paraphrasing this, but long story short, David asks this servant about what happened. The servant said that he killed Saul. David cut his head off for laying his hand on God's anointed. And David actually lamented the fact that that it happened to Saul. So Christians, understand, if evangelicals had voted for Trump or not, okay, it does not matter at this point, who voted for Trump? The person in office is the person we deserve as a nation, the person God has in place at His timing for His purpose. Okay? Now, that should, if you are going to honestly and introspectively think about that, that should change your view on Trump. I'm not asking you to like him. You think people like Saul? No. There was a lot of people who probably didn't like David either. Okay? I'm not asking you to like Trump. I'm not asking you to love him. Except in a godly way. Okay? You pray for him. You pray for his success. Because if he fails, we fail. Okay? If he fails, we fail. Now, all that to circle back to a little bit about hypocrisy. Just stop it. Okay? Stop it. If your only reason for going after Trump is Orange Man bad, he's Donald Trump. Donald Trump. He's a womanizer. He's a cheater. Let's talk about what David did. Now, King David. I'm not trying to call Trump a type of David. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is God anointed David to be the king of Israel, knowing what he was going to do. Okay? Knowing what he was going to do, knowing that he was going to have a child with Bathsheba and then kill her husband, murder her husband. So, get over Orange Man bad. You want to call yourself a Christian, let's start looking at it from the eternal's perspective of our destiny. Okay? This right here, this little timeline from A to B, from the time you're born to the time you die, A to B, is this in comparison to where we're going to be, to what we should be looking for. To take the opportunity and say, well, let's do a study and maybe figure out, we study the Bible, we study our communities, we study our society, cities, government, and prayerfully discover, why were we given this president? Why were we given Obama? Bush, either one of them, Clinton, all the way back to George Washington. Why were we given these presidents, and what was significant, and I'm talking about spiritually significant, about the time in which we were given these presidents? Now, let's talk about some more hypocrisy. We have people who are adamant about getting Trump's tax returns. I don't don't care. Okay, I don't care about his. All right, so somebody said, well, the reason we need to see his tax returns is to know how, what kind of, person was he ethically? What were his business ethics? Did he cheat on his taxes? I think that we would already know that answer. Okay. So that line of questioning just goes away. And there's supporting evidence that line of questioning should go away, and that line of questioning really has no consequential value to offer. He's already submitted his financial information as is required by the FEC, by whatever other standards. He's already complied with those requirements. With those requirements met, he has met whatever legal responsibility he has. He has no other legal responsibility to submit financial documentation, and should not, because of our privacy. Okay, the IRS audits billionaires, audits Trump, probably because they don't like him. But he's a smart businessman. And before you talk about, well, he didn't pay taxes, or he pays as few taxes as possible, do you use loopholes? Do you take all the credits and deductions and everything that you can? If you do, shut up and sit down. If you made $1 billion and you found loopholes where you only had to pay on $500,000, would you do it? If your answer is yes, shut up and sit down. If you made $10 billion and lost $1 billion, are you going to claim those losses? If you say yes, shut up and sit down. Now, if you are looking and digging into his past to dig up whatever you think you can use to criminalize him without being interested in Obama's pathway to the White House, shut up and sit down, because you're a hypocrite. If you're not interested in finding out how come Seth Rich is somehow with a botched burglary or robbery, where all his stuff was still there, and all of the other people that somehow have ended up 6 feet under or missing, but yet you are so determined to find out anything you can to criminalize Donald Trump before being president, shut up and sit down. Do you get my point? It's not whataboutisms. It's about discovering the truth. And the truth of the matter is that Trump has done nothing illegal. Even during during his campaign. And I don't think that any other independent investigation is going to be able to turn up any more than we've already gotten from the Mueller report. You can construe and twist and turn everything you want to mean whatever you want. All the Mueller report did is show how Trump was willing to try to get people off his back after he was elected, after he became president. But did he? No. And the other thing to remember is, how can you charge somebody with a criminal act, one, for something that did not actually occur, and specifically where McGahn was, quote, directed, Mueller's word, okay, it's in his report, directed to fire Mueller. Okay? The wording is seasoned with Mueller's contempt for Trump. Okay? It's seasoned with his staffers' contempt for Trump. His staffers, all Democrats. All Democrats. Put all their 2 cents in, salt and peppered, with I hate Trump. Okay? Everything is written in that light. It does show that Trump lies. It does show that Trump was being hounded, felt that he was being hounded. And his contempt for being hounded. Thus, his directed McGahn to get rid of Mueller. What that really turned out to be directed was, you should really get with Rosenstein and get Mueller removed. That would be nice. And McGahn simply refused. I'm not going to do it. I'll resign. Smart. So, obstruction? No. Besides, Trump had the authority to fire Mueller. He had the authority. If he really wanted Mueller gone, he'd fire him. He would have fired him. He could have. But he didn't. Why wouldn't he do that himself? Because it would have looked really bad. He was aware of those optics, which really very few Democrats seem to be aware of any optics whatsoever. They should be wearing some thick lenses when they magoo it and start talking about things that, if they went and looked in the mirror, they'd be talking about themselves. There's Republicans the same way. But there seems to be many more Democrats willing to be magoos than Republicans. So, no collusion, no obstruction. just because you know or have dealings with 140 Russian contacts does not make you a Russian operative. It doesn't work that way. And let me tell you something else. Just because you like somebody does not mean that you agree with everything that they've done. Okay? If I were to say I like Joy Behar, okay, does that mean I'm going to agree with everything she says? No. But here's the other thing. It also means that nobody should be associating someone to even think that I agree with everything she says. I don't particularly like her, but I'm using her for a reason. So hang on. The thing to really take away from that is, if I say I like Trump, don't start associating me with all the things you want to project on Trump. Okay? Because there's going to be other people out there that I do like, and you're not gonna equate me with or associate me to the things that they support. It wouldn't make any sense to. But all of the Democratic candidates right now they're, like I said, unrealistic policies, and the only thing they keep getting, and listen to de Blasio's message, his announcement today, all he's talking about is, I can beat Trump. That's the only thing that all of the Democratic candidates have in common. They are there because they think they can beat Trump. And Biden, you need to be honest. Working Americans are feeling the impact of Trump's tax cuts. I don't say tax reform. He did not reform anything. Tax cuts. Okay? It may be a trickle-down tax cut, but you know what? It was trickled down enough that I felt it. I got back twice as much this year, or for my taxes this year, than I did last year. More than twice. And last year was a rough year. So, I'm not buying it. Nobody should be buying into that. Working Americans, if they look at it, if they are honest with themselves, will agree that they benefited from the tax cuts. Every person out there, every member of the electorate are us. We're the ones who vote and elect people. We are the electorate. Every electorate out there. If you can figure out how to put aside your orange man bad mentality, okay, and look at the economy, look at whether your wages are improving. If they're not, then you need to either get a new job or go talk to your boss. Okay? So, look at the state of where we are at as a nation. Economically. Our position among other nations is way up here now. It was down here. Thank you to certain previous administration, the way they portrayed America outside of our borders. We should not be looking at somebody to just beat Trump. Because then they're going to say, well, Trump did this, it's automatically bad, we're going to undo it. Trump did that, it's automatically bad, we're going to undo it. If you walk back this economy now, you think what we've been losing in trade before Trump is bad. I would expect to be 2 to 5 times worse. Because we'll have a spineless, do nothing, sit in the corner of the room, hands folded, type of person. Nobody on the Democratic side has anything with which they can really compete against what Trump has done. And again, this isn't about whether he's a good person, whether I like him or not. This is about what he's done for the economy. And if there's nobody that's going to come up that with realistic policy that is going to show me how the economy can be further improved, especially in such a short time span, and have such passion for protecting this nation, this nation's borders, and our citizens, I'm gonna vote for Trump again. If nobody can step up and show me anything better than Orange Man bad, and I'm gonna take away your guns, I'm gonna force single-payer health care down your throats, I'm gonna force you to pay for these snot-nosed college brats education. I'm gonna force you to pay. I'm gonna force you to pay. I'm gonna force you to pay. No, I'm not voting for that. I'm gonna vote for what's good for me and my fellow Americans. I'm gonna vote for what's good for our human rights. I'm going to vote for what's good for our civil, which I have a very narrow view of what our civil rights are. Save that for another video. Sorry, this road's kind of bad. That's why it's bouncing around so much. But anyway, 48 minutes. That's a pretty long video. Might not watch it all. I hope you do. If you find anything valuable in here, comment, let me know. By all means, share it. I don't care if you want to share it with people and then comment how much of an ass I am. It's not going to bother me at all. But please, go ahead and share it. Y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to y'all later.